On the 13th July 2013, my life changed forever. A car ran into my mom as she was standing by the roadside, waiting for my dad to pick her up on her return from a trip. Information we got later was that people on the scene did not know what to do. I eventually saw her about 5 hours later. I knew what to look out for. I knew what to check for. But again, the people on the scene did not know how to help. And so it was too late. I never knew at the time that this had planted a seed for the work I would do today. There are so many of us who want to do things, but we have no idea on how to start. Some of us have actually started, but we have no idea on how to scale. So how do you go from zero to beyond? How do you go from obscurity to significance, such that people outside your immediate circle of influence get to know about the work you are doing? In my case, I was popular in secondary school because I was assistant head girl for 5 years. Yes, 5 years, because I was a pioneer student of Efforts Comprehensive School. So I was assistant head girl and everybody knew me. Also in the Department of Communication and Language Arts in the University of Ibadan. I was also popular because I was one of the intelligent and bold students in class. But how did the rest of the world get to know about me? It was through my work in raising safety consciousness. What I started as just a means of educating people so that the kind of things that happened to my mom wouldn't happen to them now has a life of its own, basically. And so I'll be sharing with you 5 keys that if you were to work with it, it would move you from obscurity to significance, regardless of where you are. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a business owner, a student, regardless of whatever sphere you find yourself in, if you can apply it, you would move from obscurity to significance. Preparation. What do you have in your hands right now? Most times when we ask people this question, they think, I don't have enough, or I don't even have anything at all. But the thing is, some of us don't actually know that what we have is actually a basis to start what we want. So do you have the life experience, or are you aware of the experiences of others on an issue that actually bothers you? In my own case, I lost my mom in an avoidable accident. But that doesn't have to happen to you. Maybe you're really passionate about molestation, or there is something else that really bothers you. It's an experience, and it could actually become the basis for the thing you are going to do. Do you have training and certification? There are certain things we would like to achieve that would require further study. And so, do you have it? If you do not have it, then you can get it. It's very easy to get training now. It's either paid or it could be free. In my own case, I work in aviation as a cabin crew and a safety officer. So I was already doing training and certification because I wanted to switch from aviation to oil and gas. I just did not know that all that training and certification I was doing in safety was going to help me as I built my social enterprise in the safety business. So training and certification is very important. Do you also have work experience? Most times when we speak about work experience, people think it has to be a paid role. Even when you take on voluntary roles, you are learning something, and that is very important. As you build up, this is also important that you build your soft skills and be of good behavior. Very important. People that would recommend you down the line as you do your work, it is because of the things you exemplified while you were with them. So preparation, very important. Next thing is grit and consistency. I'm sure we're all aware of this popular saying, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. So you have this brilliant idea, this plan, this business, this project that is going to impact the world. It's going to influence the community. What are you going to do when you create products and nobody's buying? What would you do when you record podcasts and nobody's listening? What would you do when you shoot videos and nobody's watching it? Or you write blog posts and nobody's reading? Are you going to give up? No. You've got to determine upfront that you are going to stay the course. No matter what is thrown at you, you've got to determine upfront. So when I started in 2016, I used to write blog posts to simplify safety things so that the everyday man could understand. But guess what? We really do not like to read serious things. Some of us would rather read things on relationships, gist, I'm sure you all know what I'm talking about. And so a coach advised that I start making videos. My weekly 60 seconds videos on safety got more engagement than the blog posts. Still sharing safety message, but a different approach. This brings me to the third point, which is seek knowledge. I'm sure we're also familiar with this saying that he that knows not and knows not that he knows not is a foolish man. So you've got to get knowledge. If you have seen that the result you want to achieve is not coming, then you begin to think, how do I get knowledge to help me get the results I want? Remember that earlier I spoke about a coach advising I do videos. That was because I sought knowledge. So how do you get knowledge? You could get knowledge from courses, you could get knowledge from coaches, mentors, or communities. Courses. It was in the course of doing an entrepreneurship course from the Bocconi University. It was on the Adasonian project that I learned about the Blue Ocean strategy. I had no clue when I started out. I just wanted to help people. But I discovered that there was a system to doing things, and that helped me to craft that Blue Ocean strategy. And that's one of the things that helped me to define the work I do. And that's why when I talk about safety education in Nigeria, I'm most likely the first person that will pop up, because I crafted out that niche separately. Whether this course is paid or it is free, what is important is we are getting knowledge. The next is coaches. It was in the course of working with a coach, Rotimi Itayo, that I learned the importance of writing a book and organizing an industry event to make yourself a thought leader in a particular space. And so I had to implement what he was saying. If I hadn't had that interaction with the coach, I wouldn't have learned that aspect. Mentorship, very important. In mentorship, I know we all love to have these mentors you could go to and interface with them on a regular basis. But I would like to point out also the importance of proximate mentorship. What this means is, this particular mentor that you admire or you want to work in the direction that they're working in, you do not get interface with them physically, but you are interacting with their materials. They're reading their books, they're reading their interviews, they're listening to the things they are sharing. Why is this important? You may not need to meet them one-on-one, but you are learning from them from a distance. So before you go on social media looking for people to mentor you, you think, can I also learn from these people without necessarily being in their faces? This is not to say that the ones you can see on the close level is not good. It is good, but just in case you are struggling finding the person that you really need, proximate mentorship is a way to go. The fourth point under this is communities. Communities are a fantastic way to learn because there are always a diverse number of people in that community that will be sharing their experiences, and so you can learn from them. Whether it's an online community like Head Start Africa on Facebook, or a physical community like Yali or Global Shapers, you've got to be plugged into such a community so that you can learn from what they are sharing with you. This brings me to the next point. If you have gotten all the knowledge from courses, coaches, mentors, and communities, and you do not execute, you're going to remain exactly where you are. So the fourth point is execute. The good book says, whatever your hand finds to do, do with all diligence. So no cutting of corners, no shoddy jobs. It's important that you do the work you have to do as excellently as you can. It's better to start and learn as you go than to wait for perfect conditions, because the truth is, you've got to take a step for things to get clearer. So if you have to create products, create them. When I started, I wrote one book. I never knew that we'll be talking about 3 books today. I never knew we'll be talking about that book being translated into French. But that is happening because I took the first step. So if you have to create products, create. I created the Child Safety Storybook series, which was self-published on Amazon. I also created the African-inspired poster pack. So these are safety posters that reinforce safety behavior. So the idea is when children see these pictures around their schools, they remember to comply with safety rules. Very recently, I created an online course for teachers because it's one thing for you to teach children to be safety conscious, and then the educators and the school owners, do they know enough to implement a safety system in their school? So the course did that. Under execution, if you need to organize events, please organize events. Because sometimes events are a good way to share knowledge. They're a good way to show and push the agenda that you want forward. And so when I started with the Train Them Young initiative, which visits schools across the country, teaching children basic health and safety skills. So we did Enugu, Lagos, Abuja, Kaduna, Ibadan. And we've recently started out in Ghana. We started in Ghana this year. And that started moving forward. Also, every year on my birthday, we organize a movie day with teenagers. I'm sure we all know that teenagers are a unique set of people. And so one of the ways to get their attention is something interesting that they can relate with. So we started organizing movies, and the feedback from that has been great. Also, remember I mentioned about industry events. I started to organize the annual School Safety Summit. So what do we do in the School Safety Summit? It's a forum for stakeholders to come together. So stakeholders from child protection and child safety, and then we'll bring together educators, teachers, school owners, parents, and concerned citizens to bridge the knowledge gap in the safety space. So we identify the problems in the school system and we profile solutions. And we've done the third one this year. Again, collaboration. There are things you would not be able to do by yourself. There will be platforms you would not be able to access by yourself. So you've got to be willing to work with people. Look around your space. Who do you think you can collaborate with to move your agenda forward? Collaborate. I will not end this point on execute without talking about how you've got to be your PR agency. Very, very important. You see, when you start, you may not have the funds to get influencers or get the traditional media to cover what you are doing. But you have your social media platforms. Unfortunately, most times when we think about sharing things on social media, we're always scared. I don't want them to think I'm boasting. We're all trying to be humble. But trust me, when you're sharing on social media, you are not sharing for accolades. You are sharing because you are creating a digital trail. Why is a digital trail important? One day, somebody is going to go on social media to search for someone in your niche. You have to be the person that will pop up during that search. You've just got to be that person that will pop up. And so you need to share about the work you are doing. So when I visit schools and I'm teaching the children, or I have sessions where I'm teaching educators, I make sure that pictures and videos are taken. And after that, I go back and I share. I don't only share the part of myself speaking, I also share feedback because I need them to see that what I say I am doing, I am actually doing it. So you've got to document what you are doing. Pictures, videos, blog posts. Now, when we talk about blog posts, some people will think, oh, it's got to be one of the high names writing about what you're doing. No. If you have a friend, your colleague that writes a blog, ensure they write about what you have done. As long as your keywords are used correctly, when you are searched for, it's going to come up. The fifth point here is expand. With great blessing comes great responsibility. So this means as you begin to rise, as you begin to do so much, you're going to have so many people wanting to work with you. You're also going to begin to have ideas of more things you can do. You've got to build capacity. You've got to reflect and find out, where am I not doing well? Or what do I think I need to do better so that I can get to the level I want to get on? So what this means is, if you need to do further study and maybe have a master's degree or a PhD in a particular area, do so. If you need to speak at certain international conferences, do so. If you need to be a member of certain organizations, do so. If you need to be on the platform of certain fellowships, please take advantage of them. Why is this important? Let me just give you a little demonstration. I'm sure we all remember that practical we did, I think in primary school or secondary school, on how a seed germinates. We all remember that, right? Remember that we're always so excited, looking forward to the first stalk coming up. Now imagine that after a little period, this stalk is now up. And one day you show up and you see a full-grown apple on that stalk. What do you think would happen to that stalk? It will snap, right? Is an apple a good thing? Yes, it is. But does the plant have the capacity to carry that apple? No. So that is what happens to us when we have not built the right capacity and opportunities are coming to us and we just want to grab everything. No. You've got to think deep, introspect. If you need to study more, do so. If you need to leverage certain connections, certain platforms, do so. So in my own case, I got to a point where I needed to push a certain agenda. I wanted to create the cartoon adaptation of my storybooks. And I needed more funding. So I applied for the Tony Elumelu Foundation grant. Last year was my third attempt, and last year I got it. That helped to begin work in that direction. Also, I found out that this problem of safety consciousness is not just a Nigerian problem. It's an African problem. And so I needed contact in other African countries. What did I do? I applied for the Mandela Washington Fellowship. And that network made me to have classmates, friends, colleagues from several African countries. That platform is what has made it possible for my book to be one of the books that will be translated to French, so that French-speaking West African children can have access to that book. Do you see why it is important for you to be able to identify platforms that you need so that you can move to the next level? As of today, I've written 3 books in the Child Safety Storybook series. This book was self-published on Amazon. It has sold in 12 states here in Nigeria and in 8 countries. Every year we've organized the School Safety Summit. This is the 3rd edition of, this is the This was the second edition. We've organized 3 editions of it. This year, 2019, the 3rd edition of this School Safety Summit was supported by the US government through the reciprocal exchange component of the Mandela Washington Fellowship. What does this mean? It means that an American was sponsored to come down here and implement the School Safety Summit with me. The Train Them Young initiative. As of today, we've taught over 4,000 children here in Nigeria and in Ghana. I got into the New Foundation grant, yes, but I was named as one of Africa's young and promising leaders by the Mandela Washington Fellowship, and this took me to the US for a training last year, and that got me featured in the news in Phoenix, Arizona. Now, all what I have said, is it easy? No. But is it totally worth it? Yes, it is. When the work you are doing to help people becomes something that has taken a life of its own and is bringing opportunities that you didn't even think about, yes, it is worth it. So if I, Ugochi Obidiegwu, known as a safety chick, can go from being a nobody to somebody, from 0 to beyond, from obscurity to significance, from just being one person to someone whose work has transcended across borders, you too can do the same. All you have to do is plan and execute. Thank you.